Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host, and this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. So, this time, we're going to take a look at a book. I've done a more an in-depth in this title, showing several issues of this title in a previous episode, probably 3 years ago or so now, and that is UFO flying saucers. We're going to look at issue number 2. This one is issue number 2, but it has no cover, as you can see. So I got that one, so we have a nice cover to look at. And that one is issue 5. There, yes, UFO with flying saucers. From Gold Key Comics from 1970. And it says inside that it's the title is quarterly, but they must not have been coming out on a regular quarterly basis, because this one is issue number 2 from 1970. This one is issue number 5 from 1975. So, they were obviously did not come out as they were scheduled to. And since the first one was in 68, they were more like annual, I think. At least up to a point. Okay, the comic, it's the title UFO Flying Saucers. It was started at Gold Key in 1968, which means that's probably when it came out. It probably had a cover date of sometime in 69, though. That's just my guesstimation. Ran for a total of 25 issues through 1980, with a title change to UFOs and Outer Space, with issue number 14 in 1978. So they got more regular as it progressed. And then the title was produced by a variety of creators. Of course, unfortunately, they don't give creator credits, and so I have no way of knowing who the writers or artists were unless I happen to recognize them. And I know Frank Boll was a frequent contributor, and various others also. I think Jose Delbo, because he was a frequent contributor to Gold Key in general, and I recognize some of his art in some here. Okay, it represented many stories of UFOs and their occupants, drawn from recorded accounts of allegedly true encounters, filling many UFO the encounters that were filling many UFO books and magazines at the time. Some of the comics were reprinted in Whitman volumes. These were a little larger, with cardboard covers on heavier stock paper, for distribution and sale in the children's sections of bookstores. And it was I got them very sporadically, but they came out sporadically. But I was especially in the 70s, I was really interested in UFOs, and I read a lot of books. So most of the accounts that they covered in the comic, I was already somewhat familiar with. Not all of them, though. But they had some really interesting interpretations of the UFO occupants, just as we see on the cover on this issue. and many of them were directly based on the descriptions given by the witnesses. So I like this cover. I like all the cover paintings, but there's some that are, and even this one. I wish I had a UFO crashing into the sea. Okay, this was UFOs on the Moon. This is a nice rendition of our astronauts. Because remember, this is 1970. It wasn't too long ago before this that we finally reached the moon, and then had several missions there. And this is saying, did they see something on the moon? And and it shows here in 1962, at the Mercury 7 mission orbits the Earth. Houston control of a swarm of glittering objects like fireflies. Yes, and John Glenn. And that, if you saw the movie The Right Stuff, they depicted John Glenn seeing these little things. And this is talking about that. And another mission, Mercury 9 with Gordo Cooper in 1963, when he says he saw something, an object, and various other things. And here's another recounting from 1968 at the Gemini 4. But virtually all of these had reasonable explanations for them. But there's no reason why they can't put them in the book. And here's another one. Says, oh yeah, this is just one. It's a negative. Our boosters in plain sight. And there were other incidents of involving the astronauts who saw what some people have claimed to be UFOs or potential aliens. Here we go. Panic over Mexico. And see, and this is as you can see in this first one, is not done as a story. Most of this in this particular issue is not done as a story. When it's usually like in here, it is done as a regular story. But it's just a comic account. Oh, I like this artist. I can't remember his name. He used to do, I think, the Lone Ranger and maybe some of the Bonanza. I'm not sure. Anyway, some sighting of aboard a ship off of Veracruz, Mexico, and then on land, and they saw how these things flying through zooming through the sky, and how they veered off and puzzled people. Then UFOs invade our seas, and these are what are often called USOs, unidentified submerged objects, and they're often flying UFOs seen going into the water or coming out of the water. And this one is depicting Nova Scotia. This is a fairly famous account. This what people thought in 1967, what people thought was a plane crash into what was this? Was it Sag Harbor? No. It doesn't say right here. And they contacted with Air Force Base, and they reported not seeing anything, and the boats went out there because they thought it was a crashed airplane, and trying to see if there were any survivors or anything. But all they saw was light out there and other things happening. Then time after time, the unidentified objects were seen crisscrossing the bay and plunging into its waters. This is off Nova Scotia. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, but this is, well, even divers were sent down. And this was a real event. Someone saw something, and they were saw stuff, and they didn't know what it was. They sent divers and ships to check stuff out. Nothing was found. And then other accounts of something that said coming up out of the water and just glowing and glowing, says like nothing I've ever seen, and it's described as looking like something from out of Jules Verne. So it is drawn here somewhat similar to the description in the novel of the Nautilus. And other accounts in 1950, two American sailors spot another amphibious UFO off Korea. This would have been shortly before the Korean War in 1957, a Japanese fisherman. And then the 1964, the naval ship El Tanin performs a scientific mission west of Africa. And they spot something with their equipment, and it's just shown as like a submarine here with an antenna, big antenna type, and they don't know what. Just other accounts, and I remember reading about this one too, where this cigar-shaped thing come down and just sucked up a bunch of water. It's like, what for? You know, and other things now, and some people have said, well, like, can't they see them? Aren't there all kinds of things out there? And can't you see them from submarines? No, you can't see anything from a submarine. It is black. Plus, we have no windows. Windows do not do a ship good. And very similar things. This is a very nice rendition right here of a submarine doing an emergency blow. Except, I don't know what ship they used for reference. They must have combined reference from two different submarines, because the bow has the bow planes, and this looks like an older diesel style boat, like from World War II and the 50s, and then but the sail here, which you'd know as a conning tower, has sail planes, which would have been later with the teardrop shaped hull of the nuclear submarines. And now, from what I understand, the newer submarines have gone back to a bow plane configuration, but still has the teardrop shape, not this style of hull design. And that is superfluous, and nobody cares. But I thought I would bring that a little bit in, just as a little criticism of the artwork, but some very fine artwork all the way through it. And just more accounts of strange stuff in the sea, or coming out of the sea, or going into the sea. Then we see the UFOs over Russia. Now, I found this one very interesting, because it's one of the few accounts that I see in these comics that I was not familiar with, and at least not entirely. Some I might have. It says, in 1965, an observatory in Soviet Latvia. You're right, I see it too. A lens-like disc surrounded by 3 spheres floating in the sky. And it does some maneuverings and then disappears. And another one. Then they talk about the Tunguska crash. They describe that as like a potential UFO, when we know what that was, within reason, was probably a fragment of a comet which entered the atmosphere. And they said, yes, in the descriptions, it did change course, apparently did change course when it was in the atmosphere, but that is quite possible, because being a fragment of a comet, well, as it heats up, it would be outgassing, and the gas jets out of there could very easily alter the course. I don't know that. I'm not an astronomer. But then kablooey, the Tunguska in Russia, and devastated hundreds of square miles of forest. In it was like a large airburst of a nuclear weapon, but the thing exploded as it would have from the heat, the expansion of gases, and increasing density of the atmosphere. It would just disintegrate and exploded. But then they said something here about these discs. I do remember something about these discs, but I don't know if it's in conjunction with this. Discs that have what they thought is some kind of writing on them. And then tribesmen in Siberia also describing what they described as look kind of like gliders, and landing and then conversing with occupants. And these are from some of their traditional stories going back potentially centuries. And then they get on some cave paintings there. And this is a fairly famous one here of what they are interpreting as spacemen with someone with a space helmet, but is most likely a man with some kind of headdress. And then also here as this depicting this sculpture, a very good rendition of this sculpture. I've seen photographs of that, and again, they want to say it looks like a man in a spacesuit, but also looks like a very stylized representation of a man in some kind of ritual garb. Then this is an event that I've heard nothing about, so I don't know anything. This was about a UFO being sighted over a Soviet tank factory, and air raid alarms went off, but no one knows how they got set off. People ran for shelters, and then the thing crashed into the factory and destroyed it entirely. Now, I've never heard of that one other than in this context. And then here's another one that I know: snowmen from the sky. This is just talking about combining the cryptid Bigfoot and Yeti stories, because many people do want to connect the two, thinking that those creatures are. And this is, I think, drawn by. I just said his name a little bit ago, and now I'm suddenly drawing a blank. Anyway, he where they're thinking, because there are many supposed UFO sightings in conjunction with Bigfoot sightings, and thinking that these might be one form of UFO occupant or a creature from another planet that was on the ship when it crashed, if that's what indeed it was. And no one knows, and you take it all with a nice big grain of salt. Now this one, for example, has told in a Frank Boll drawn story, and is done more as an actual story, recounting the event in one of. But he does a great job on that alien, and it's not dissimilar to the descriptions as I recall. It's been many years since I've read the actual stories that is recounting. Then invisible thing, they're putting it with UFOs. This is a phenomenon that I have read about, and probably I don't remember, in a book, but it has nothing to do with UFOs. And then there's a little feature on some of the UFO occupants as described by the witnesses and stuff like that. So, and here is another one, the Maury Island incident, and this is well documented in many books. And they would talk about this one many times on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell and George Norrie, and it is again a well documented account, but we don't including potential crash of an airplane that was shuttling supposed remains from a crashed UFO on it and stuff like that. So they did do a good job. I loved this as a kid. It was always a good introduction, and I loved that stuff. So, and I've talked a whole lot longer than I intended to on this book, or these books rather. So I do want to thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Are you into UFOs? Do you believe that they are alien ships entering our airspace? What about abductions? All kinds of sightings. You name it. Let me know what you think. I don't think they're real, but I think they're very interesting. That is to say, I don't think people are necessarily lying, but I don't think there's aliens, and I do think there is a certain phenomena going on that this gets lumped into this heading, and may not, and is most likely a natural phenomenon, as well, of course, misidentifications. So let me know what you think, and remember, comics are art.